If you're in the market for loudspeakers, you have a choice between active or powered speakers or passive or unpowered loudspeakers. And which one should you choose? Well, my name is Barry, and I'm a sound engineer in the Minneapolis, Twin Cities area, and I'd like to give you some sound advice on this topic. Now, in the past, about the only choice we had for speakers were passive speakers, which would just simply take in a high-level signal, go through a passive crossover, which would split that signal into lows versus highs and drive the drivers in the speaker. And these days, it's more and more popular to see speakers with amplifiers built into them, powered loudspeakers, where we just send in a signal, and the amplification and the processing is taken care of right inside of the box. So does it really make a difference? Well, in terms of sound quality, the thing that determines the sound quality primarily is the quality of the drivers that are used, the woofers and the tweeters and the horns and so forth, and the construction quality of the box, and its design, of course. And all of those factors really don't change between powered and unpowered boxes. So the prime consideration for me is how good of a loudspeaker is this model? And then the secondary consideration is, should I get a powered version or an unpowered version, if those options are available to me? Well, there's some advantages and disadvantages going either way. If you get a passive version, which is unpowered, you only need to run one cable to the box, which is the loudspeaker signal cable. But of course, that's kind of a heavy, thick cable, and you then need an amplifier to drive the box, which would be one more thing that you need to drag in from your vehicle into the venue. So with the passive boxes, they're probably going to be a little bit more lightweight, all things being equal, because they don't have amplifiers that are bolted to the back of those boxes. And they don't require electrical power to be nearby each of your speakers, which can be a little bit of a hassle. And so those are the upsides for a passive box. Now, a powered box, on the other hand, only requires a signal cable, not a loudspeaker cable, which is a thinner, lighter, more easy to deal with cable, so that's a plus. However, it does require electrical power to operate the amplifiers that are inside the box, which is a minor hindrance. It means you need to run electrical power in places on the stage where you might not otherwise need to do so. There are some other pluses with the powered box. Of course, one of the negatives is it's going to weigh more because you got more stuff in the box. But the pluses are that in many powered loudspeakers, they don't just have a single amplifier, they have separate amplifiers for the different sections of that loudspeaker. So they might have an amplifier for the low frequency section and an amplifier that's separate for the high frequency section. And instead of using a passive crossover like the passive box, that crossover function is done fully electronically. And by doing that, you have a little more control over the signal. And when the amplifiers are directly attached to the drivers without going through a crossover, that's a more efficient design. Sometimes it sounds a little better. And like I say, you're not wasting power in the crossover. By splitting up different amplifier stages for different sections of the box, you can better right size those amplifiers for the drivers that they're pushing. That is, the woofer in the box may take hundreds of watts, but the high-frequency horn may only handle 50 watts. And so by putting a smaller amplifier on the high-frequency horn section of it, it makes it a little less likely for those components to get damaged if the box is overdriven or there's a transient. So for that reason, the powered version of the box may be a little more resistant to being damaged by errant signals, being overdriven or transients. Somebody drops a mic on stage, something like that. Furthermore, the powered version of the box, at least in the better version boxes, often have some signal processing available within the box. That is, the manufacturer may have applied some equalization to those amplifiers in order to apply the appropriate corrections needed to make that loudspeaker system sound its best. So right out of the box, one speaker that's passive versus another speaker that's powered, the powered may sound better because of the equalization correction the manufacturer has done in the amplifiers in that speaker system. Additionally, you may find other features implemented in DSP in powered loudspeakers, such as built-in compression, limiting, and so forth. So I think that could be compelling. Now, of course, the downside is that it requires a little more wiring and AC to the box, a little heavier, but you don't have to drag in an amp rack. So I think the bottom line is that either version loudspeaker can sound excellent. And it's largely a matter of convenience as to where you want your amplifiers. Do you want to drag in a separate rack of amps, or would you rather drag in some speakers that are a little heavier? For me, personally, in most situations, I think the powered boxes are more convenient, and because they can offer some digital signal processing capabilities, I think that's compelling. But I think you can make good choices either way. Either speaker can sound excellent. And so I don't think there's a clear-cut winner. I think you have to look at the features, plus and minus, and decide what fits your situation best. In my case, I could envision situations where I could use passive boxes or powered boxes, and depending upon the situation, one choice or another may be preferred. So I hope that helps. And even if it doesn't, I'd still appreciate if you would subscribe. So if you'd push the button down there somewhere and hit the subscribe button, I would appreciate it. If you would hit the bell icon, you'll be notified of future videos so you don't miss more interesting content. And I wish you well, and I hope to catch you on the next episode of Sound Advice.